Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is on how to make this 8.5 by 11 large album, and it has about a finished size of about 2¼ inch spine. And this is a lot of fun to make. If you're looking for some new designs, there are some in here, as well as there are magnets in here. However, there's a couple places in here where I show you how to create closures without magnets. So that's something new too. So let's take a look at this. Up front we have this, and you can place a photo in there. This was created with the Stamperia Sir Vagabond in Japan paper. So it's kind of like a travel themed. Here's our first page, and I'm not done with my picture mats. I am going to have to add in some solid colored cardstock to finish up, but I got some in here to show you. So right up front we have a side pocket, and then this is magnetic and it flips up. And then down here this flips down, and then we have two fold outs. Place your photographs, and then back here we did this in the tutorial. We did this cut apart and we backed it and we glued it down, and what it is it creates a pocket for some picture mats. I think it came out really good. I'm really happy with this. Over here what we did was we created this little envelope, and this envelope has no magnet, and back here it's a tuck for a picture mat, and this just slides right on up, and inside here I have a picture mat as well to store my photos. So this is without a magnet, as I was saying, and I show you how to create this so you can just slide back in and hold it. Next page. This is a front area where you can tuck a photograph, a picture mat, whatever you want to do. And we did create this folder in the tutorial. I don't have anything on the inside yet. And back here is a large, spacious pocket. This page has no magnet, and I do show you how to create a closure with that with a strap. And the strap on the back side doesn't come through, so I'll show you that really quick. So it just kind of comes apart like that. And what I show you how to do is, if you notice when we open this up, you don't see where the slit is where this comes in, and it's not back behind the pocket either. So that's something new. That way it doesn't interfere with putting anything in your pocket, or if you want to place a photograph up in there. So there's a pocket. This is all open, and there's another pocket down here, and we made this so you can tuck a mat or a tag or something back behind there. So, and it just closes up real easy. You just kind of feed it right up through there and close it. So very easy to do. This page is a side pocket here, and he's also a tuck, so if you wanted to tuck a photograph in there and kind of frame them right up front, you can. And then there's this little pocket. Over here we have a series of large fold outs right up front. This is magnetic, and you can place a photograph here and get it back behind. And that just opens up. And that opens up. And there's places here and here for photographs, and then that will open up again. And inside we have pockets. And then this area opens for a photograph. So it just kind of all goes back together. And then coming to our last pages, I wanted to do something different, and so what we created was this area where you can just tuck picture mats back behind, slide it back. And I thought that kind of came out kind of cool with the paper. Back here we have a very large pocket in the back. And then this is magnetic and it will fold up, so there's more places here for photographs. So that is what we are making today. Let's move on into the materials list and then we'll get started. We're on the materials list, so I'm going to go over this really quickly. You're going to need 2 of the Stamperia Sir Vagabond in Japan, and these are the 12 by 12 sizes. You're going to want some black cardstock. This is an off-brand because I ran out of my American Crafts and it's been on back order, but I'm using the 12 by 12 black cardstock. And this is for my album wrap, and it's also, and this does not have any brand name, I pulled this out of my stash, but you're going to want something that's a good 85 pound or so for the inside of your album. Now for your album wrap, you'll want maybe to start with maybe 3 sheets of 12 by 12 size that's a 65 pound or 80 pound. You're going to want Tyvek. Tyvek is a material that is hard to tear. It's for our binding, and I sell these in the envelope, but we just need a couple strips off this. You're going to need 2 pieces of 12 by 12 medium weight chipboard. It doesn't matter if it's black or craft. For our spine wrap, you have a choice. I am using the fancy brown embossed vinyl, and on the back it's kind of a felty, or you can use the black. The black is really pretty too. I'm going to be using the brown. Score tape, you may want to pick up a couple packs of the 3/8. I'm going to be using the Art Glitter Dries Clear glue, and you'll want to make sure you get the metal tip as well. I'm going to be using the Beacon fabric tack, and that is just for the embossed vinyl to get it on. It works really good. It grabs, it stays down, so I can get that maneuvered on there. You're going to need 1 pack of magnets, and I am using the basic gray, the large ones, and there's 12 in a pack. Tools or equipment that you're going to need to complete this: you'll want a ruler, you'll want a pencil eraser, you'll need a craft knife in this tutorial, scissors, scoring board, paper cutter, and a tool, your bone folder scoring tool. Okay, let's move on in and start putting this together. We are going to put together our base album, but first we're going to review our pre-cuts. Now the pre-cuts were on our materials and pre-cutting guide, and that was free, and there was a link underneath the video, so you definitely want to get that so you can get your cuts and everything ready to go. It'll make it go much smoother. The first thing that we had on our list was 2 pieces of chipboard that were 8.5 by 11. We cut 1 piece that was 2 by 8.5, and we called that a chipboard spine. We had 2 pieces of Tyvek, which is this material. We didn't label it. It's easy to identify. But this was 1 inch by 8.5 inches. We then cut a 5 by 8.25, and we called it our inner spine cover. We cut 2 pieces that were 8.25 by 10.5, and we called these our inner cover. We cut 3 pieces that were 8.25 by 11 inches, and we called these our inner pages. What we did on each one of these was we laid this on our scoring board, so we are 11 inches across. We then scored each at a 1/2 inch. Next, what we had was we had 2 pieces that were 10.5 by 12 inches, and we called this an album wrap. We also had a 4 and 3/8 by 10.5 inch, and we called this our album wrap. I'm going to get this out of the way, and we are going to start. And we're going to start with our album wrap pieces here. So what we're looking at here is we are 12 inches wide and we are 10.5 inches tall. We're going to take a piece of our score tape and we're going to place it along the right hand side of one of our pieces here. Again, we're 10.5 inches tall, just along the edge, because we're going to seam these together. Once you have your score tape down, let's burnish it to get the air out from underneath. That's always important. We don't want anything lifting. And we will make sure that we don't have any score tape peeking over the edge. Now I want to try and seam this and get this on straight. So what I like to do is get my paper cutter out, and I use the paper guide here to help keep me straight. I'm going to grab the 4 3/8 by 10.5 inch piece. And I'm 10.5 inches long here. I'm going to remove the score tape backing, and I'm going to push it up against my guide. I'm going to grab this one, push it up against my guide, and I'm going to try and overlay this, getting this over that. And once you have that down, we can burnish whatever I did with my tool, and we will burnish that. The next piece, so we have that done, and I'm going to push this back just a little bit more so you can see. Let's grab our 10.5 by 12 inch piece, our other one, and we are 10.5. We're just going to go right on over to this side, the left side of it. I'm going to burnish that down. Clip off any overhang. There it is. And I'll push that up against the paper guide. I'm now going to grab this piece here and push it up against the guide. Okay, let's flip this over. We're going to grab our spine piece here, our 2 by 8.5 spine. And the object of this is we're going to be placing our score tape on this, and we're going to be placing this right in between those two seam lines that you can see there. And we're going to center this so we have at least an inch here and an inch here. So I'm just going to place my score tape on my spine, and I'm going to go all the way around this piece, like a picture frame is what I always say. And I think one down the middle will be just fine. So I'm going to give that a good burnishing. I'll clip that little piece off there, and we will get this down. Okay, I am going to adjust my camera here just a little bit so that we can see just a little bit better. There we go. So again, we're going to place this in between, center it between those two seams, and leave about an inch and an inch. And if you get a little more of an inch up here than down here, that is fine. Let's grab our two pieces of chipboard that are our chipboard covers. And the object of this is we'll be placing score tape, but we're going to be placing this, and we're going to leave about a 1/4 inch spacing in between the spine and our covers. So first things first, what we do on this one, we will be doing on this one. So we'll get ourselves ready here. We're going to put score tape around the outside, like a picture frame, and I'm just going to wrap mine around. Now, if you choose to wrap yours around the edges like I did, know that you will get maybe a little bit of bulk in that corner. It doesn't bother me, but this is easier for me and quicker for me, especially when I'm teaching. Next, we're going to go one down the middle, and we'll go 2 on each side. we'll give this a good burnish. And we'll do the same thing for this. So I'm going to continue burnishing and get my other piece ready to go. I have both of my pieces ready. I'm going to remove the score tape backing and we're going to place this together. Okay, 1/4 inch away and lining up the bottom of this with the bottom of our spine. Trying to keep that as straight as we can. I'm not going to worry that that's upside down. It makes no difference. And we'll get to this page now, this side. 1/4 inch away, and that looks good enough. Now we'll burnish the other side in just a bit. The next thing that we want to get our hands on is the Tyvek. Now if you end up with a little bit of a seam in the middle of your Tyvek, you can snip it off or you can apply glue and just tap it down. It's not going to hurt nothing. All we're going to do is lay 2 pieces along the side of each one. Okay. Now when you place this, if yours wrinkles up, it's okay because it gets covered up. But what we're going to do is remove the score tape backing. And you see where your little valley is in between your chipboards? We're just going to place this evenly over that. And if you get it on crooked, it does not matter. These pieces do get covered up. And then we'll burnish that. Okay, this one. So I got that on there, and again, it does not matter that this is written upside down. This gets covered too. This whole thing will look nice when we're done. Next thing we want to do is start working our cardstock to bend around. So what I like to do, and that's why I said using 65 pound, maybe 80 pound, works really good for this. So I'm just going to kind of bend it over, and then I like to use my tool there. And we'll get this side too. Just work it. And now we will do the long part. Now the long part, I like to kind of start in the middle and slowly just kind of work it because we've got those seams there. Now when wrapping, sometimes we get splits or shards from on the outside from those seams. And that's okay. I'll show you how to fix that. That's not a biggie. So this takes a moment because it's such a large piece. Okay, now we'll just take our tool and kind of help it along. Let's do down here. Work it. Wonderful. Next, let's grab our score tape. And what we're going to do is we are going to lay this right next to the chipboard and put it on our cardstock. And we will just line that all the way around. We'll burnish this down once we're done. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go along the outer edge there. And when you do that, you don't have to come all the way to the tip with your score tape because we are going to be cutting off at an angle. So we're just going to go all the way around this with our score tape. If you got your stuff on a little bit crooked, it's okay because this, we're just going to wrap it, and if it looks crooked on the inside, we do have a nice piece that we've already cut in our pre-cuts to cover that. And it really cleans up the album inside. First thing that we're going to start to do is we're going to wrap the bottom up, and then we'll get the other. So I'm going to remove this score tape from there, and I'm going to just pull that back a bit. I don't need that in the way. Get this this out of the way over here. Come on, you. There we go. Okay, so when doing this, I like to start in the middle. And I'll just press, and then I'm just going to use my hand and press like that without pulling. Okay? Let's turn that around, and we will do the same thing over here. Now for the sides, we're going to actually do some clipping this way rather than clip before. You see where the corner of your thing is? All we're going to do is come about 1/8 inch away. We're going to clip that. And if you can get this, you can just clip off any excess right there. So we'll do it again. Find the corner of your chipboard. And make sure you do not go past that line that you've created. So you can see I have an 1/8 inch away from that crease there. Okay, we're going to grab our tool. We're going to come around the edge, like rounding the corners. This is just a different way to do it. Come around the corners this way. See what I'm doing? Now let's pull this up and see how we did. Again, don't worry that you're missing out on there, and you should get a nice corner there. And we're going to burnish. And you can press down on those edges. Okay, so just a different way to do our little wrapping. We'll pull those out of the way. Again, let's watch where our crease is, because that's where we're going to come 1/8 inch away from the crease and just go at an angle. And 1/8 inch away from the crease over there. We'll take our tool and we will round the corner. And all that does is just help push down that other part there. And it helps so you don't get too pointy of an edge. And then we're just going to fold. So as you can see, it looks pretty good. Don't worry about anything looking like that. Okay, next piece. We're going to grab our 5 by 8 1/4 inner spine cover, and we're actually going to put the score tape on the side we wrote on. Now this piece is an important piece because once we get that down, our page hinges go down to it. So this is going to be completely covered. So first things first, I'm going to go all the way around like a picture frame. And I will inspect my piece to make sure I don't have any overhang, like I do, of score tape, and I'll clip that off. Those of you that have been following me for some time, if you do not like that wrapping option the way I just did it, go back to the old way that I showed you, if it's easier. I like to do things a little bit different every time, and I thought we would do something like that. There is no right or wrong way to do a mini or a large album. It's just whichever technique that you like the best. And I do like to change it up for myself. I made so many of these minis that I just like to do different things. Keeps it kind of fun building the album. The funnest part is, for me, is the decorating of the outside and the inner pages and all that. But this part, putting together just the base album, kind of gets repetitive for me. So change it up a little. Okay, once you have all your score tape down, turn it over, inspect your piece. Make sure there's no score tape peeking over the edge. And we're going to give this a good burnish. And I'm going to bring this back over so you can see where my tie back is. The key to this, once I remove the score tape backing, is this gets placed evenly over this. And if it's a little bit off, it's okay, because like I said, we have a nice cover to go over the inside. But the idea is you're going to want to leave equal amounts of your page up here showing, top and bottom, about 1/8 of an inch, I would say. And we just want to make sure we get that on straight. So I'm going to remove my score tape backing and then we will place it together. I have all the score tape backing off of here, and again I'm going to try and get this on evenly as well as top and bottom. So I think that right there is good for me. So now once I have that down, I'm going to burnish that down really good. And sometimes you can, when you're burnishing, you can hear crackling, and that's just the air getting out and your tape getting down. Okay, really quick, if you have the splits up here, let's finish up what we're doing now, and then I haven't forgotten, I will help you. I did not get the splits on either side, but if you did, it's a quick little remedy, and I'll show you that before we finish up this section. The next piece that we want, the next pieces that we want are our 8 1/4 by 10 1/2 inner covers. So put these off to the side. What we're going to do now is create our hinge, and we're going to place a hand right like this on the spine. We will slide our other hand underneath, put pressure down on the spine, and slowly bring this up. The reason why I use score tape is because if I use glue, like I have in the past, to glue down this middle piece, that's very important, the glue doesn't get spread out as much, and I'll get bubbling air pockets underneath. So this looks good though, what I've got going, because it's completely flat. As far as how far over to bring your piece, like I said, I like to put my hand down like this, and when it comes over just about this far, I stop. And then I'm going to do the same over here. And just work it slowly. Now this is going to be like a new book, so it is going to be stiff. It will loosen up over time. Okay. I'm going to erase any pencil mark on the outside. We will label these in a minute. And this does get covered, so no worries. But I don't want to confuse you. There we go. So that's all down. Let's grab our inner covers. Again, we're going to be placing the score tape down on the side with the writing. You can see where your hinge is. So really quick, grab your piece and place it down evenly in there and bring it on over straight. Now this, the top and bottom of this will line up with the top and bottom of your spine cover. So it makes it very easy. And I'm just going to bring it over, make sure that it's straight in there, that I don't have any imperfections showing. I know it fits. So let's do our score tape. First thing we're going to do is place score tape all the way around like a picture frame. And I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. And it's early, kind of early here, and I've got my cup of coffee. And it's almost gone, and I'm going to be refilling that pretty quick here. I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm a little sluggish right now. Okay, once you have it all the way around like that, we're going to go one down the middle, and we'll do 2 on each side. And once again, I'm going to do the same exact thing to my other piece here. We're going to burnish it down, but most importantly, we need to flip it over to make sure. You definitely don't want any score tape showing, peeking over the edges, because you will see that. And then what happens is if you have a little bit of that adhesive showing, it will collect dust over time. Okay, I'll burnish that as soon as I am done with this one. I am finishing up just burnishing there. And I'm going to get my tool, whatever I did with it. Here it is. I'm going to remove the backing and then I'm going to place it in my book. I'm going to place that together. Got the score tape backing off. And I don't want to get my head in the video. But again, I'm going to be looking over here to make sure that I cover any of my imperfections. Now, if for whatever reason you got your piece on a little crooked, don't worry. Because once we get our decorative paper in on top of this, you're not going to notice it. Okay, time to get the other one. We're going to do the same thing. So if you need to look first, whoops, like that. Get that off there. In these darn scissors. Okay, I am ready. And I'm going to like that. Looks about right. And now I'm going to burnish. God, I'm all thumbs. I definitely need that extra cup of coffee. Good Lord. Last pieces that we have are our 8 1/4 by 11 inch inner pages. Oh, where's my coffee? You come here. Sorry. It's my go-go juice. So we have that score line, and we're going to fold, and we're going to use our tool to crease on it. Just like that. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we'll have the peak up, and we're going to grab our score tape, our 3/8, and we're going to lay it right on that flap in between the score line and the edge, all the way down. After you do that, you definitely want to do a good burnishing. We'll flip it over and make sure, if you're sloppy score taper like me, clip off anything. It's just, you don't want to get any score tape on that score line, the crease there. So we'll just continue. Definitely don't want to see any of that. And our last one. Alright, so the idea of this is I'm going to remove the score tape backing. Once I do that, notice that you can see where your hinges are. Not your seams, but your hinges. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull one side up. The length of this up here and down here matches our inner spine cover that we did, which makes this so much easier. So if we have that up, and we just bring that all the way over, matching up top and bottom until we hit over here. These will go in nicely. And I'm going to get my other scissors. Make sure I clip that score tape really good. So I will show you the first one, and then you can do it as well. My sticky is down here. Pulling it up, matching up the bottom and the top, and pressing it in. And now we give it a good burnishing. Again, if you get yours on just a little crooked, that's okay. Once we get our decorative paper on there, it won't matter. And I'm going to erase this now, because we'll be labeling our pages. So here's the second one. We don't have to pull up any sides for this. Here's my page. And I'm using this off-brand cardstock, and I'm not real pleased with it. And I don't know the name or where I got it from, but I'm not real pleased with it, to be honest. It's not like my American Craft that I like to use. Speaking of which, hopefully will be in any time. I have a message to my vendor for those of you waiting on it. Okay, I'll remove this. Now you can see on this little page here where your crease is. Remove it. We'll push it right up next to it. line it up, top and bottom, and press. So they just fall right on in line there. Press. Very easy. And then we'll burnish on the other side. And we will get this one. Bottom, press. And now you can see this is what it looks like. Looks really good. Okay, so what we're first going to do now is grab our pencil. We're going to label these before we move on to anything else. We're going to do front, because our opening's over here. We're going to go back. We're going to open this up. On the inside, we're going to put a 1. The next page is a 2, and this will help you in case you have to take a break and so you know exactly where we are. 3, and this gets covered. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are now moving on to decorating the outside. If you have the splits at your seams, what you want to do, I almost forgot about telling you about this. So if you get some shards right where your seam is that's popping up, all you need to do is take a little glue and dab a little bit up there. I don't have it, but I'm going to demonstrate it. Just a little bit. Next thing is look which way the shard is coming. So if you need to go over, push it back this way or this way. So you would go over once. Now you tap 2 times and be done. Otherwise, if you keep tapping on it, it's sticky. Your glue's drying. It's going to start tearing it. So that's all you need to do there. If you got the splits, which is rare, I never do, over here, but it happens. What you'll want to do is try to doctor it up the same way. If it's really bad, you'll end up at the end, after we're done doing our cover, maybe wrapping some ribbon over it or some paper. Just fitting it over there and maybe going around the edges. That way you don't have to start all over. If you got some over here, it's not going to make a big difference on this album. And the reason why is because of our album wrap. This is a sturdy vinyl. And when we go over it, you're not going to see any of that. Your album's not going to come apart because this is going to reinforce that spine for us once we cut that down. And it's going to lay nicely. So no worries about that. If you are worried, you can kind of dab it down with some glue. But it's a very rarity for me to ever get anything on the sides, following the technique that I do, leaving the spacing, making sure that I don't pull and tug on the wrap. Okay, let's move on. We're on to decorating the outside of the cover. We're on to decorating the outside, and I took a break so I can adjust the lighting as well as the cameras to keep my head out of the video. And I'm able to have another cup of coffee, so we should go a lot smoother now. So we are on this, and I'm going to set this off to the side, and I'm going to grab our paper and my paper cutter. We had one pre-cut, and I have my scoring board here really quick, and that is a 6 by 12 inch piece. We laid this on our scoring board, so we are 12 inches across, and we just scored that at 6 inches, and we can fold on that, and we'll use our tool, and we'll set that off to the side. In your paper pack, you will find this print, and on the back it has the dragon. Now, one thing is I try to stay consistent on how I tell you to cut. Generally, I'll start over here and tell you to measure over this way. Now, sometimes we need to turn our paper so I can stay consistent and tell you to measure over this way. And I'll let you know, and we'll do some cuts together. So, on this first cut, we are going to turn it sideways so that our little band is down here. We're going to measure over 8¼ and cut. So here is my paper cutter. My blade is right here. I'm going to move this down a little bit. So 8¼ and cut. Now anything that lops off the side, we're going to stick in a reserve pile. That is a scrap pile. I just call it a reserve because I'm reserving to use this paper at a different point in the tutorial. Okay, so this is what you have. We're going to turn this completely upside down. This is over here. Measure over 10 5/8 and cut. So 10 5/8. This piece we'll put in our reserve. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Let's grab the front of our album. Now when we place this, it's going to give us a nice black border, but we're going to shift it more over. You'll have more space over here because it does get covered, but we're going to shift it over until we are first centered top and bottom, so you'll have black here and here, but you want to leave the same amount of black showing that you have up here and here. So it's going to look like this. So let's get our score tape. And we're just going to go around the outside like a picture frame to start without going over the edge. If you go over the edge, you will want to snip off any score tape. And hopefully the lighting is a little bit better, and hopefully this eliminates my head coming into view of the camera the way I had to rearrange it. So now we're just going to place 2 strips on each side of that middle one. It doesn't have to be straight. I'm not straight, trying to maneuver myself here. And we're just going to give this a good burnish. And now I'm going to remove the score tape backing and place it. Okay, the top is going to have this. And again, I'm going to keep my head out of the video, bring this over, and I'm just going to, if it's easier, guys, just to open this up so it's flat and it's easier to see, do so. I'm going to try and leave the same amount of black showing top, bottom, and the sides. If I get it a little off, I'm not going to cry over it, that's for sure. And we'll give that a good burnishing. So there is our front. Now we're going to work on the back. In your paper pack, you will have this print, and on the back it is this. We're going to turn it sideways, measure over, and you have the black down here, measure over 8¼ and cut. And I'm going to get this out. 8¼ I'll place this in my reserves, and we'll flip it upside down so that this is over here. Measure over 10 5/8 and cut. And I'll put that in reserves. I'm going to stick this out of the way. Okay, let's flip this over. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame. 1 down the middle and 2 on each side. And then we'll place that together. So, burnishing that down, inspecting. There is no overhang. And I'm going to get this off. Here is my back. I'm just going to open up my book and lay it flat, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So bring it on over here, and I'm going to lay it. We're just going to go for it. What's under there? There we go. Get that out of the way. Looks good. Now what we need to do is get our embossed vinyl sheet. Now we're already 8.5 this way, and that's what I want. So we're going to need to cut this down. So what our final piece is going to be is 8.5 by 6.5. So for me, I'm going to grab this out, and this will help me at least start. So 6.5, I'm going to line this up, make sure it's good. Okay, so one thing about this, if you're using the Fiskars and your blade is still sharp, it should be. They don't dull necessarily. But I'm going to start with my blade back here, and then I'm going to run it this way. And then I'll come back if it'll let me. And then I'll clean up any edges. Now you can probably get away with doing this on your other types. Just be careful. So I'm just going to do that. And then this piece I'll just stick off to the side. As far as any of this showing, I'm just going to clip off any fuzz I might see from the felt. There we go. So, first thing I'd like you to do is grab your album and place it like this. You're 8.5 inches tall, and wrap it around until it looks even side to side. So here and here match up. What you can do is just place a pencil mark where you need to come as far as over. Okay? I'm going to be using the Beacon fabric tack because it works really well. And I'm just going to go straight on down. I can wipe up anything. And I'm especially going to get right along the edge of this album, on that edge there. And I can add more glue where needed. So I'm going to bring that on over. And while this is, I'm going to get rid of some of that excess. Make sure it's even. And take a look, it still looks even. Okay. So I'm going to open this up. Now the rest of this, you cannot have your album open. I'm just going to do this to try and pat this down a little, and then I'm going to quickly keep my album closed now, because if you do it when it's open and you glue it down, you're not going to be able to close your album. So I'm just doing to look to make sure I am even here and here. Wipe up any glue. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to get right down there, right by that crease. And now I know how far over that this comes. I'm going to make sure I get on this crease too, or the hinge I should say. And I'm going to apply my glue. So I've got glue all over this, as you can see. Now my album, I'm going to stand up, make sure the sides are out the way they should be, and I'm just going to bring this over. And I'm going to kind of push towards myself. Make sure I'm straight across the top, which I am. Okay. Now I'm just going to finish up and place it right on that felt. Okay. I have this up, and I am, whoops, my ring keeps switching around on me, and I'm going to bring this over. And I'm going to be just kind of rubbing on the sides and make sure I get right there on that hinging system on the outside. And you should come out fairly straight there. Just make sure you've got this the way it's supposed to go and smooth it out. And I look fairly straight on the back there. So while this is gluing in place, don't open it, just leave it alone. Make sure your edges are down. You can go back and tack down anything you think you need, but I'm going to set this off to the side. We're going to work on our 6x12 folder while that dries. In your paper pack, you will find the panel sheet. On the back, it looks like this, and that's what we're going to look at. We are going to stick this on our paper cutter, and where we are going to cut is directly on that red in between here and here. So I'm going to show you really quick. You just want to get right in between as best you can. And then this piece will go in our reserve. So look what I have. I have some red here. And that's what you want. Next, we're going to go right in between on the red, right down the middle there. So I'll get that over there. This piece in our reserves. So now what we're going to do is a measure to fit. And I'm going to move this out of the way because everyone might have gotten a 1/16 off from what we did here. Let's grab our folder and we're going to place this down. Now when you place this down, I would like you to use the smaller width of red to line up, and we're going to leave just a 1/16 of black showing here and a 1/16 of black showing here. Now you can see that we need to cut down some of this. So this is why I said we're going to line up these sides first. So I'm going to grab my pencil, and then this way everyone's will fit. So I'm going to bring this up closer. I'm going to line mine up again so you can see. Now we're going to come up here. And you can see where your black cardstock is. So I want you to come in about a 1/16 from the edge. Make a pencil mark. And we're going to cut that. So I'm just going to line that up. Put that in your reserves. You never know when we may need that. So now, when we place this, let's take a look if we need more trimming. But we should be pretty good now. Black, black, black. They all look the same. And you'll want that closed. We're going to do the same thing over here. Look at your black cardstock. Move over 1/16 while you're holding this in place and make a pencil line and cut on it. So that should even and square you up pretty good. That will put in our reserves. So now if we were just to place that on there, center it, it'll give us a nice black border and it looks nice. It's all kind of centered in there. So the correct way that this goes is where you have the black and the orange there, and we're going to glue this down. There we go. And we'll burnish. And by burnishing, it does spread the glue out a bit underneath. And you may get some glue that wants to come out at the sides. Just clean that up. Whether you use a paper towel, whatever, I kind of use my tool, my fingers. In your paper pack, it's right back behind the cover, you will find this. We're going to get out travel journal. So when we do this, we're going to come in between on the black there, go in this way. We'll clean it up once we get it out. And the idea is to try and keep everything intact on this piece without snipping off a bunch of pieces, because it's harder to find when we get going in this tutorial. So I'm just going to weave around it as best I can. So that's the first one. So you should still have some black around the edges, and what we're going to do is leave about a 1/16 of that black border, and we will cut out and around this. Now if you cut yours too short and you don't have that, you can back it to black cardstock. But I'm going to take advantage of what I got here, because this does not have to be reinforced with black cardstock. And I'm just going to cut out and around it as best I can. You don't have to be perfect. Lord knows I'm shaking all over from all this coffee that I felt I needed. I'm going to continue to be hopped up on my coffee and keep drinking it. That ought to be fun. So when you're done, you should have something like this, and we are going to glue that down right there. Now I shake naturally anyway. It has no, I mean, the coffee does not help. So our opening is over here, and we're just going to place that evenly right where that border goes in between there. Try to get that on there evenly. So it looks like that. Our next piece, I want to try this. If we don't use it where I want to use it, then we'll use it somewhere else for sure. So I just kind of clip this one out. Now on this one, I have a very little bit of black up here. I'm going to try and keep a little bit of black going around this thing and do the same thing I did on that one. So there's mine, not perfect. And I'm going to glue that down right here. And leave a little more white there. There we go. On your very last sheet here, what you're going to see is this. I want to see how that looks. So again, I'm going to weave in around these other images so that I don't clip anything off. Kind of try to get that out of there. If we don't use this here, we can use it in a different place. I'm going to switch out my scissors. Well, crying out loud, what have I done with my other scissors? My little fussy cut. There we go. This will make my life easier. So I'm going to cut out and around this, and I'll show you what mine looks like as soon as I am done. So here is mine, and I am going to back this to some black cardstock. So I'm going to grab some out of my reserves from when I was doing my pre-cuts, and you'll want to keep some of that handy too during this tutorial. And I'm just going to lay this down, and I'm going to cut out and around, just leaving a little bit of a black border. So there is mine. It is not perfect by any means, and we're just going to glue that down right like that. Let's get into our magnets now. We're going to grab a plus and a minus. Hello, come back here. And we will open this up. We'll grab a plus. And we'll come in an inch from this side and try to center it in there. We're going to close that. And now what's going to happen is this side is going to want to flop down. So we'll let it find its mate. Put a little glue under there. And now we're going to stick this on our album. And we're just going to plop that right on in there. How cool is that? And I want to look to make sure I'm fairly even here. Okay, I'm going to open that up and do a little burnishing. Be careful, find your magnet, put your finger on it so you don't go gouging your paper. Hey, that looks pretty good. I like that. Let's set that off to the side. In your reserves, you will have these pieces. What we're going to do, now that we have our side already cut to what we want, we're just going to flip it over like this. And I'm going to give you a measurement. And I'm going to get my paper cutter out. And we'll try this measurement first. If we need to trim a little more, we can. We're going to measure over 5 7/8 and cut. So 5 7/8. I think that's about 5 7/8 right there. And I'm going to trim this long piece off and set that in my reserves. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is just cut that right in half, right in the middle like we did before. I'm going to just open this out flat so you guys can see here. Oh, by the way, when you open it up flat now, you can kind of just press down too on that spine. We'll open that up. Place your pieces together where you have the thicker at the top. We'll turn it this way so you can see. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. So that'll bring that all. Let's take a look. We'll flip that one over. That should fit right on in there. This one should fit right on in there as well. And they should be the same. So we're going to glue these down. If you'd rather have the fish up, because I'm going to have this panel down so a photo can be placed, or you can go this way and have the fish up. It's up to you. I'm going to be flipping this side over and making sure I am not on that score line, and it gives me a border. And now I'm going to glue this one down. Very easy. Magnet. And I will place this, making sure I match up with the bottom there without going on that little score line. I think it looks really good, and this is all I need for my cover. We are now going to move on to page 1. We're on page 1 and we're going to review our pre-cuts. So on the pre-cutting guide, the first thing that we had were 2 pieces that were 6 by 6 1/4, and we called these a fold out. And on each one of these, what we did was we laid this on our scoring board so we were 6 1/4 across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch on each one of these. Next, all we had was a piece that was 6 3/4 by 8 1/4, and we called this a backing. There's no scoring. We had a 6 by 7 1/2, and we called it a top flip. And what we ended up doing with this is we laid this so we were 7 1/2 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 3/4. We had a 4 1/2 by 6 inch, and we called it a bottom flip. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 4 1/2 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 and 3/4. Last one, 2 1/2 by 7 1/2. We called this a top flip side pocket. We laid this on our scoring board so we are 2 1/2 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch. The instructions said to then rotate your piece, so now you are sitting at 7 1/2 inches across. Score at a 1/2 inch and 7 inches. So we're going to begin by grabbing this out of our paper pack, and I am going to get my cutting board out here. So it would actually look like this with the band down here. But what we're going to do is we are going to turn it. So the band is over here, the thicker band. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. This piece we'll put in our reserves. Next, we're going to measure over 10 1/8 and cut. We'll put that in reserves. So this is going to be our base decorative sheet. In your paper pack, you will find this print. And I'm going to bring this back out here. we're going to need a couple pieces off this. Oh, and on the back it looks like this, really pretty. We're going to measure over 5 3/8 and cut. 5 3/8. Okay, we'll need this one. Now this piece we'll be using on this particular page, but not yet. We'll put that in our reserves. All right, so for this one I am going to give you a measurement. Let's turn this sideways. Measure over 2.5 inches and cut. And when you do that, that's going to put you just above her hair. Put that in reserves. So that is the beginning of what we need. Measure over 7 7/8. And we'll cut. Put that in your reserves as well. I'm going to move this out. What we're going to do is we're going to cut out and around this image. Now, one thing I want to point out so that you don't cut off, but you can see that she has some hair coming down in the back. When you come over to here, you're going to clip upwards like this, just in case you don't see. I just don't want you cutting in around in here. So you'll make sure that you don't cut off that hair. Any leftover cuttings, put in your reserves. So this is what mine looks like. We're going to need our backing right here. And what we're going to do is glue her down, and then we're going to cut out and around, leaving a black border. And I'm going to leave probably about a 1/16 inch of black around that. This is going to look really good. I'll show you mine as soon as I am done. So when you're placing her down, leave yourself black border down here too. And we'll clean up any glue that seems to want to seep out on us. But you'll definitely want to use your tool to make sure that you get this down pretty good. Alright, I'm going to start cutting and then I will show you. This piece here is going to become like a pocket for us, or a tuck. And what we're going to be doing is bringing that all the way to the bottom, moving it over so that her pieces for her hair are there. So I'm going to start by putting glue underneath this, and then I'm going to push glue underneath here, and I'm going to get right up at the tips. So glue does go on these because these are more delicate. Across the bottom and just right up here for the tips. And again, I'm going to make sure that this does not go over my paper. Line that up. There we go. And we'll burnish that. So now you'll be able to slide behind her, just like that. The next two pieces that we are going to want to get at is the 6 by 6 1/4, and these are our fold outs. And we're going to slide that away, and we're going to fold on those score lines. So we're going to be having, these are our hinges here, and we will have one off to the left and one off to the right. So we'll start with the one off to the right. So you have 2 score lines. You have an inside and an outside. On the outside one, we're going to pinch and crease. And we're just going to slide that so that it's even amount top and bottom. And we'll flip that over. So if you are new, one thing is once you have it in place, what I like to do so it does not slide around on me is I pinch and hold it really good here. I'll take my other hand and hold it, and then I'll flip it down and hold it and place my hand here so it doesn't slide around on me. And we will place some glue there. The next thing I like to do is just to open that up, make sure no glue creased. We're going to have a hinge off to the left, so on that outside score line we will pinch and crease, so you'll still be able to see the other score line. We're just going to place that right on over the other one, making sure that they line up. Pinch and hold it, flip it, and let's glue that down. And we'll open that up, make sure no glue has seeped out. Our next step is to push back on that other score line. And then we can push it in so it creates a spacing for us like that, as you can see. And we'll do that on this one. Then push it in. And you should be lining up with the other one there. So we're going to begin by opening these up and finding our paper for this. So grab this out of your paper pack. On the back side, it is this. The first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to make 2 cuts. We're going to measure over 5 3/8 and cut. We're going to measure over again 5 3/8 and cut. I'll grab my paper cutter. I think you guys kind of get the way that I cut and what I'm doing here when I'm teaching. But we'll do this one more time here. 5 3/8, and we're going to cut, and then we'll measure over again 5 3/8. And cut. We'll put this in our reserves. So this is what you should have. We're going to double these up. And I have the blue trim up at the top, looking at it like this. We're going to measure over 5 3/4 and cut. And we'll measure over again 5 3/4 and cut. Okay, 5 3/4. And I'm going to measure over 5 3/4 again. I'll just set those off to the side. I might use those. So this is what we have right now. And we have these pieces right here with the blue trim at the top. You have this. We're going to center that in there, top and bottom, side to side. Now when we do that, you're going to want to leave a spacing away from that outside score line so that it kind of matches what you have over here. So that one we're going to glue down there. We'll take this one and we will do the same thing, and then we're going to burnish it down. So let's do that. I have both of mine down. We'll flip over one. And what you're going to have now is this, where the red is at the bottom. And we will just glue one down right here. And we'll glue one down right here. So this is what we should have. Next, we're going to grab our 6 by 7.5 top flip. And we're going to fold on those score lines. Okay, our hinge is going to be at the top. So on the top score line, we're going to pinch and fold. So you'll still be able to see your other one. And we're just going to come over the top and try to center that in the center there. And once you have it, we will pinch, hold it, and glue it down. Next, let's grab our 4.5 by 6, and we're going to do the same thing. This is going to be at the bottom, so on the bottom score line, we are going to pinch and crease. We're going to slide that underneath the black one there until it lines up. Pinch and hold and glue it down. And mine moved, I can see that. kind of slipped on me. So I'm going to realign that really quick. That looks much better. And burnish. So that is what you should have. Now we can push back against the other, and that creates our flip. Okay, we're going to flip this one up. We're going to need 2 of our magnets. We have a plus and we have a minus. Let's grab the plus. Oh, come on, you. There we go. So I am on the top flip. I'm going to come down a good inch and place it right there in the middle. Now for the mate, stick it right on top. So you want to make sure that you are where you need to be there. If you got it on a little crooked, this is where you can help maneuver this where it should be. Now don't pull it down so that your crease is down. You want to make sure that you get that lined up with the sides and just let it fall and press. Just like that. And now what you can do is just kind of tug a little at the side to get that off there, because otherwise you might tear. So this is what it should look like. Alright, we're going to get our little pocket ready to go. It's 2.5 by 7.5. And that is going to go right there, which is going to look really good. So if you are new to this style of a pocket, you have 2 score lines here and here and 1 across the bottom. We're going to cut out those little squares, that these score lines make when they meet there. Get that out. And once you got that, we can turn it over and we can just fold on those score lines. So with the sides in and the bottom flap down, what you're going to do is come over to the corner here on each side, just a little bit. And notice that my glue does not come out farther than the side of this. And then you just pull it up, and then you can use your tool to kind of burnish that down. Okay, we're going to set this off to the side. We are ready to go with that. All we need to do is get our paper for this now. In your reserves, you will have this long piece. It's actually the other side from when we cut out the lady. Right now we are about 5.5 inches this way. We're going to turn it, measure over 6.5 inches, and cut. And this is what you should have. This keep handy. Now for this, what we're going to end up doing is it's going to be short on this side, but that's okay. Our pocket is going to come into play here. So if you were to place this over to the right, and make sure that I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see a little better from the black. But what our goal is here is to get a nice black border here and here that are the same, and then a little bit over here. So our first step is to glue this down, and that's really pretty too, but I'm going to use that side up. That's our first step. And I think that's pretty good there. And I'm just going to push back on that so I can get this flat. And be careful of your magnet there. Next, okay, on the back side, when you see this, this is going to be for top, this is your lip for the bottom, this is the lip for the closure. So you have an opening right here, and it's going to be like this. So we're going to apply glue and get this down. And we'll match it up top and bottom with our decorated paper, leaving a little bit of a black border over there. And then we're going to burnish that. And then I'll just push that back. Now, we had a couple of these, and all we're going to do is kind of stick it down and we'll measure to fit. So I have that down across the bottom, and I'm going to cut. And that's all I'm doing, is just kind of going what I need. And if you're a little crooked on your things, sometimes that helps to straighten you out too. Okay, so I have it like that, and I'm going to do the same thing right here. Just adds a little more color, and I'll put that in reserves. All right, we're going to find our paper for right here. In your reserves, you will find this cutting, and it will actually match this. On the back, it looks like this. This is about 2.5 by about 6 5/8. So let's turn it this way, measure over 6.5 inches, and cut. So we just took a sliver off. Next, we'll measure over 1 7/8 and cut. This piece should now fit right over that pocket and leave us with a little bit of a black lip there to indicate that is a pocket. We'll come back to this as soon as we're done putting this down, and we'll get some of our other paper down. And we do have something else to do for this page right up here, but we'll come back and do that. So I'm just going to put it this way. All right, we're going to flip that up, and we'll flip this. Now, this piece here, notice that if we have the flower up here, we're going to be short on each side. But if we go and turn it, we have a little more there, but we also have, that I had us put in our reserve, these skinny pieces of red. And that's going to come into play. So we're going to look at it with the flower down over here. Measure over 3.5 inches and cut. This piece, if you were to place it down and center it top and bottom, side to side, will look like this. You can use this side. Let's see what that looks like. So we can either go with it this way, or we can go with it like this and get a little of that pink in there. And that's what I'm going to do. Let's get some of that pink in there. Even though it's sideways, it does not matter. So again, just center that as best you can. All right, so for these little strips that are going to come in handy for us, looking at them like this, measure over 3.5 inches and cut. So this is what I have. Now one thing I'm going to do is look to see how far I need to come over. And I'm going to have about this much spacing. So that's going to help me determine how far over. If you are new to mini album making or any types of albums or folios, you will soon learn that your scraps will come in handy for you. And I'm just going to get this as even as I can with the top. Even though the top is up, it's hard to see. I'm just going to do the best I can. It's a little off, it's okay. But your scraps come in handy, as you can see. And there it is. Like I said, we'll come back to that. Let's open these up and get our paper for in here. In your reserves, you will find these two pieces on the back, part of the dragon, gears, and some of the ship. We're going to look at them like this. You have this down here, you have your red border over there, and we are going to double them up. Now one is slightly wider than the other this way, and that's okay. We're going to make a cut. We're going to measure over 6.5 inches and cut. These two pieces that were cut off the side, let's just stick them off to the side. I'm going to drag this down. Now what we're going to be doing on this is we are going to be overlapping or seaming. And first thing I want to do is lay this one down and center that top and leaving a space before I get to that score line. This one we're going to apply glue and we're going to come over the top. They're exactly the same cut, and you would never know the wiser that they were seamed together. So that's what we're going to do. Now you could go with something like this if you would prefer to have that and come over like that, but it doesn't seem to seam very well. So that's how I'm going to do mine here. It's just all according to your personal taste on what you want to do. Just make sure you don't get on your score line there. Give yourself some room. That looks pretty good. We're going to move down here and flop that down. I'm going to take this one here with the more color and see how that looks. And all I would need is a couple strips. And we have this long skinny one in reserves. I think I'll put this one back and we'll put a little color down here. I like that side a little better. So we do have to trim this down. So measure over 3.5 inches and cut. So when I glue this down, I am going to glue it so that it is centered in there. Making sure I don't get on that score line. I think that's good enough. I got my red trim. So here's this long skinny piece that we put in our reserves. We're going to do 2 cuts. Measure over 3.5 inches and cut. Measure over again 3.5 inches and cut. And now you know what to do. We'll apply glue to these and we will glue them down on the side. And then you never know that we seamed some stuff together and used up some pieces that otherwise would not fit correctly. That looks really good. In your reserves you will have your cut apart sheet, and we're going after Mr. Sir Vagabond here. So I'm just going to cut him out. Now one thing that's going to detach is this little thing here, and instead of putting this in my reserve, I'm going to stick it off to the side so I don't lose it. So for right now we have this. We're going to cut out and around this. Then we're going to grab a piece of our black cardstock. We'll glue it down and cut out and around, leaving a black border because we do need the strength. So I'm going to close this all up. Push it out of the side and start cutting. And I'll show you mine as soon as I'm done here. Now, before I glue this down, one thing I will say is that this is going to be very flimsy. I am going to chop it off, unfortunately. I'm going to glue them down now. Now, you don't have to, but I am, because he'll probably get snagged a little, but that's all right. As long as I have his image and we can see kind of what he's doing there. So down he goes. We'll cut out and around, leaving a little black border, and then we will place him together. I have him done, and you may want to get some scratch piece of cardstock and just kind of place it in there. But he's going to be half on half off. We'll have his foot totally glued down on this side. And let's see, I might want to glue his other one down just to keep him more stable. So I'll just move that up. So his feet we want. And down his side, let's take a look how much we need. And we're going to bring him over to the bottom. And we'll just get that other foot down. Now right around here under his head just a little bit, I'm going to put some glue. So we can still slide something in there. I'll just grab something big like this, but you get the idea. You have quite a bit of room in there. All right, let's grab this out of our reserves. This piece right here, we're going to get out. Let's cut out and around this. And I am not leaving any black on this because I'm going to be backing this with cardstock. That's pretty easy. So we're going to glue this down and then we'll cut out and around, leaving a little black border. Okay, this piece here we're going to glue down right like that. So I'm going to rotate it. I know that I need to get at least over that far, and the rest gets glued down to stabilize it. And I'll bring it up. And I'm going to open this up, make sure there's the glue that I need to clean up really quick. And that looks pretty good. You see the fan? We're going to cut out and around this one. We're going to back it to some black cardstock. And I have a place in mind for this one. And this is an easy one to cut out as well. And as far as these ridges, I'm just going to kind of do my own little thing here to make it quicker. Alright, I have some scrap cardstock here. We're going to glue that down, cut out and around, leave a little black border. I have this, so I have my two open. I am here, and I'm just going to place that right over here. So I'm only going to get two spots, right here and right here, so you can still slide a photo. I'll bring it to the edge to edge. I'll go a little more to just make sure that this does not go over the edge, because you'll have problems. You'll have problems with opening and closing this. So I got that down right there. And you can see you can still get something in behind. This is all I want to do. I think this looks great. A lot of places for photos. It looks wonderful. Page 1 is complete. We're going to flip this over. We're going to place score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and two pieces on either side. We won't plant this in our book yet. We'll wait to finish page 2. And I'm going to get my score tape on and I will show you what that looks like. Here is the back of mine. It looks great. We are now moving on to page 2. Let's set this off to the side. Page 2, we have a couple pre-cuts. The first one is a 5.5 by 12-inch long piece. And the first thing that we did was we laid this on our scoring board. So we are 5.5 inches across. We scored at, I'm going to move this into frame, 1/2 inch and 5 inch. Then the instructions said to turn your piece, so now you are 12 inches across. We scored at 3.5, 3 5/8, 8 3/4, and 8 7/8. We had a second piece. Oh, and we called that an envelope. We had a second piece, 1 1/2 by 2 7/8, and this is our envelope closure. I thought we would do a envelope without a magnet. This is our closure for it. So the first thing I would like us to do is grab your scissors. Now you may want to grab your paper cutter, but I'm going to. And the reason being is I want to try and get a straight line, and I'm just going to use this here. But I'm going to show you. You see where you have 2 score lines here and here, and you'll have them up here too. We'll be doing the same. On the top score line, we're going to cut over until we meet this score line, the one going vertical. And we're going to cut out. We're going to do that over here and here. So, and I do want a straight line, so I'm going to kind of just line this up. Make sure that I get it straight. I'll bring my blade down here. I think that's pretty straight. So I'm going to go up to that one, and then I'm going to cut over. And I think you can see what I'm doing here. So you can see what I've done. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to also on this side, I'll come up from the bottom, cut over. So the only flaps we're going to have left is here and here. So I'm going to do mine really quickly, and you can watch. I'll start up here because it seems like it's easier at this point for me. And try to get this line straight. I'll show you what mine looks like as soon as I am done, just in case you're confused. Okay, I'm going to get this out of the way now. So this is what yours should look like. Okay, we're going to fold on all those score lines. Now don't jump ahead and glue down anything on this particular piece. Okay, you will notice that you have, oh, gotta fix that, make sure it's straight. You will notice, and I'm going to erase some things now so it's easier for you to see. You will notice that there is a flap that is bigger than the other one. This one here is our bottom flap. Oops. So I would like you to write bottom flap. It'll get covered. This one we'll bring down. We're going to put top flap. Okay. I'm going to go into our reserves and I'm going to find the piece that we need. So you will have some scraps, and this one is in your reserves. It is about 6 1/2 inches long, and it's 5/8 wide. The first thing I would like you to do is measure over 3/8 and cut. And I know that that's really a slim piece, but I'm going to grab this one out because my other one does not do very well with that. And we're just going to cut a sliver. So 3/8. And this little piece I'll put back in my reserves. Now we're going to make 2 cuts. We're going to measure over 1 3/4 and cut. We'll measure over again 1 3/4 and cut. This little piece I'll just stick in my reserves. We'll put that out of the way. Let's grab our piece. Here is our flaps. We're going to need our glue. We're going to put some glue on this. We're going to fold in that flap, and we are going to leave a little black border at the top of this little flap, and there'll be a little black border off to the side. We're going to do the same thing with this one. Let's first get that down, so when we open up our envelope, it isn't just black. And now is the time to get it done. Take a look. That's good enough. Our next piece. Alright, so for this, it's in your reserves. It looks like this. This is 1 3/8 by 8 1/4. This is perfect for the width. We're going to turn it so we are looking at it like this. We're going to make 2 cuts. Measure over 2 inches and cut. We'll measure over again 2 inches and cut. I'm going to grab this out. I think this piece here we're going to do together. So there's one that's 2 inches, and here's my other one. I'll put that in my reserves. All right, so we have these 2 pieces. Let's grab this. This is our 1 1/2 by 2 7/8 envelope closure. You're going to need your ruler. So place your ruler down. We are 1 1/2 across. At the 3/4, that's our midpoint. I want you to just put a little pencil mark. From the sides, I want you to measure up 1 1/8 from each side. Just like that. Now we're going to take our scissors. So I'm going to bring this up so you can see what I've done. I hope you can see that. My pencil line here, 1 1/8, 1 1/8. I'm going to go to the side where that mark is. And you know, it's easier for me, especially because I'm doing this, is I'm going to draw a line from the middle to the side on each one. And that will help me out a bit. And it might help you out too. The idea is to try and get these even on the sides, and I can see that I'm not quite high enough here. You don't have to be this persnickety. I'm just being a little persnickety right now for myself. So I'll try to get that more straight. The idea is to try and get these 2 points even as you can. So I'm going to cut. And I'm going to cut over here. So they're pretty even. Okay, next, lay down your piece, and from this side, we're going to measure 5/8, and we're just going to draw a line 5/8. That's going to help us. Grab one of these, and what I want you to do is place your piece over, and you will center that. You'll be able to see the sides, and you'll want to center that in between the sides of here and make sure your tip comes down. And then all we're going to do is draw our line here and here. Now we're going to cut. Now when I cut, I'm going to cut on the inside of that line. Now I can adjust this as much as I want, but if I was to bring this down, now you can see it's going to give me a nice black border. Now for this one, what I'd like you to do is flip it over to this side. I want you to place this even. This is our pattern. And we're going to draw and then cut. And we just cut on the lines for that. So now, if you flip it to the other side, this is going to fit in there as well. So we got our 2 pieces. we're going to glue these down. And you'll leave your black border, of course. Just try to get it in there as even as possible. We'll flip it over. And I'm going to erase now what I got going here. Don't need that. And I'm actually going to place glue on this side. Alright, so I had you come down to about 5/8. We may come lower than that. And I think we might do that. Okay, forget about the 5/8 line. What we're going to do is glue this. So just grab one side. You see your top flap? We're just going to center that side to side. So try to make sure you're kind of even in there. Now what we're going to do is, now that we have this on our top flap, we're just going to, you can fold these in. Don't glue them. Fold this up. Make sure you got your spacing down there and your sides match up. And you're going to bring this over the top. So it's going to look like this. Now, you see where you can see the corners of this piece here? What I would like you to do is just do a line, about a 1/16 inch little line from each side. We're going to pull this up and see how even we are here. I'm about 1 1/8. And I need to have this straight, so I'm going to go with 1 1/8 as well over there. Let's see. That looks good. So we have our 2 lines. And I am about 1 1/8, and I think you should be about that too. Now we just take our ruler and we draw a line. Don't go past the left or the right side. Just kind of continue your line. Try to get it straight. I'm holding mine up so it may not stay straight for me. So I'm going to pull this down and see how I did. So your line, you will be able to see, like I said, about 1/16 inch away from the corners, and it should be fairly straight. What we're going to do is open this up now, and this is where you're going to want to grab your ruler and look for the line. You'll want to have something to protect your counter there, and we're just going to cut through. Now we'll cut through again once we get our decorative paper. So all we're doing is making that slip opening. It'll be easier once we get our pattern paper down. And by the way, that's what we're going to look to get now. Let's set this off to the side. We'll get our paper from our base decorative cuts. In your paper pack, you will have this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. First thing we're going to do is turn it sideways, measure over 8 inches, and cut. This is what you should have, and we're just going to set this off to the side. Flip this upside down, measure over 10 1/8, and cut. So this is our base sheet. Let's grab this. So I'm going to look at it like this. Measure over 4 1/4 and cut. So this is what you should have. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it this way, measure over 3 3/8 and cut. Here's our piece. We'll fold up the bottom flap. This is for the outside, remember. If you were to fold in everything, it should look like this. This piece here will fit right on over. We're going to glue that down, then we will cut through. Now that we got our nice straight line. It's better on something like this to do it first on the black cardstock, because if you got it off, this is where you can cover any mistakes and not have your decorative paper all chewed up. So I'm just gonna do it like this. Trying to figure out the best way to teach this page. Let's flip that over. Now we can see that. And if you have any chewed up or whatever, this will get covered when we assemble. So you don't worry about what it looks like on the back. We just want to make sure our front looks good. And we're going to cut through. Let's see if I got through. I did get through. And it ends up for me being right on that line there. So, and it looks cleaner now rather than all chewed up like that. So this can go in. This goes here. Let's try it out. This should be able to just slide right on in there and hold this shut. Okay, let's get a little paper for back here. In your reserves, you will have this piece. It is only about 1 5/8 by about 6 5/8. Measure over 4 1/4 and cut. You should have this in your reserves here, and this is the cutting off of this, and that's 4 1/4, and we just cut this. This 4 1/4 piece, make sure you cut correctly, will look good up here. So we got 2 pieces, 2 scraps here. And I'm going to place it right here, leaving a little bit of a black border and centering that side to side. So I got my borders. Now this, you can use any side you want. I'm going to go with this side being the glue side. And I'm just going to match that right on up to that and burnish. That way we have some sort of color in the background. We're ready to glue in our sides. All we're going to do is place glue down this side, down here, that's the side with our slit, and over here. And when we do our glue lines, we don't want to go past how far over those are. So now that we have that, we will bring it up and match it up to this. Making sure you're pretty flat down there. We can burnish that. And we can try it again. This should bend for you and slide right on in to keep it shut. Okay, let's close it up. This top flap, let's find our paper for that. We're going to use scraps. In your reserves, you will find this piece. It is about 1 3/8 by 4 1/4. Perfect. You'll also have this piece, and it is about 8 inches by approximately, looks like 2 inches. Looking at it like this, measure over 4 1/4 and cut. Okay, so the correct way is this way, but I'm not going to worry about it because we're going to have something coming over, so it does not matter. We're going to glue this one down first and center it side to side, leaving a black border, and then we're going to come over with this one like that. And that uses up quite a bit of what's left over in our reserves for scraps, a lot of them. Okay. On this sheet here, we're going to get out this one here. And again, I'm going to try and keep this all intact. So over here, I'm going to go pretty close to this piece. That out. If you detach, it's not a big deal. Just remember that you've detached and it's in the reserve somewhere. Let's cut out and around this. Once you have that cut out, we're going to glue it down to black cardstock, and then we're going to cut out and leave about a 1/16 of black showing so that we can frame this and it'll look really good. Here is mine, and I'm going to glue it down, and it's going to go right there. So grab this back out. I want to look at a couple things here. We may not use them here, but let's see. I think it is better to travel well than arrive. We'll grab that one. It's not so bold. I'll put this back in my reserves. It's kind of hanging on by a little bit. I'm going to cut out and around this. If you have circle punches, you can use that. I have mine done. We're going to glue it down to black cardstock, and we're going to cut out and around that. I'm not the best at cutting circles and then outlining, so I did the best I could. It's not perfect. Okay, the object of this is you want to have this down in there. We want to glue this just down to this and not that. Then when I pull it up, it should be okay. Now you're going to want to probably leave this top part with no glue so it has an opportunity to bend. So let's check this out. There's my little thing. And you want to only get glue on that part. So like that. So make sure no glue is underneath this part. That is pretty much the sandwich in between, so it will go down. And it helps it from not popping back up. So just kind of, and again, no glue under there so it can bend and sandwich. So as long as you leave some no glue there and no glue there, you're just a little in there, you'll be okay. So I'm going to put this all back together. Let's grab our sheet. This goes right here. However, we're only going to put glue under this side and the bottom because we can stack in some picture mats. So I'm just going to rotate this over. Glue here and here. And I'm going to stick it. When I stick it, I'm going to be a good 3/4 inch away from the edge of my paper there. And I will just come down to the bottom of my decorative paper so I can get me straight on that. Now we'll flip that up and we can get in there with our tool. I found these in my reserves, so let's check it out. So that's what you should be able to do, is slide some picture mats in there. Okay, page 2 is complete. Let's flip it over. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame. 1 down the middle, 2 on each side.